Hello peeps, today we are here to take you into a monster attack movie. Although it doesn't have much freshness, we will be glued into the screen for hours. Few movies which follow the same pattern are Jurassic Park, Cloverfield, and Bird Box. The movie is titled as Silence, even though it has some similarities with Quiet Place. Silence is very engaging. Now, without going into much binge talk, we'll get into the movie. The movie begins by showing a cave. It's a cave in Pennsylvania, where only a few can enter. We can see two researchers getting down in search of something. There they seize a layer of rock, and they breaks it. Meanwhile, they are also contacting their team, who's outside. They makes them know the same. And when they looks into the inside cave, many enormous creatures comes out and kills them. The creatures then goes out of the cave. It resembled something like bats. The scene shifts and we can see a girl named Ally. She was walking through her school. She lost her hearing capacity lately in an accident. We can also see some boys mocking her behind. She couldn't hear all these things, as she was deaf. She then notices that bunch of creatures flying away. Further, she understands that she's being mocked by them and walks away. Now we can see Ally's father, Hugh, having a project discussion. He's accompanied by Glenn, who's his associate. They are having some disputes about the project. Hugh then agrees to the contractee's conditions. Hugh agreed to do it because he had all the expenses of Ally's college admission in his mind. Then Hugh's wife calls him and asks him to buy medicine for their mother, and also says about the incident that happened in school of Ally getting mocked. The scene turns to their house. Grandma was scolding Hugh's wife because her younger son was overusing the PlayStation bought to him. Mom quickly gets near him and switches off the PlayStation. Regardless of her scolding, he suddenly turns it on. Then Ally was walking through a road. Swiftly somebody comes and covers her eyes and asks her to say who's it. She replies by asking to move his hands out. She knew it was Rob, her friend. Rob was the only person in the school who doesn't wash his hands properly after having food, thus she understood him. Further, Rob makes her know that his dad was planning to buy a car for him. Ally replies by saying that he's very lucky and she will not have such perks in the near future. Rob shakes her hand saying that he'll pick her up. But he doesn't give back her hand, he holds it with a grin on his face. Ally returns to her home. Her mom asks why she was late, and Ally replied by saying that she came walking. Her mother then mocks her in the name of Rob. Then we can see her dog barking in front of the window, but when she comes to look what's the dog barking at, nothing shows up. And at the night, when she was lying in her bed, Rob sends her a video of some creatures flying. Meanwhile, Hugh comes into the room and asks her about Rob. She replies to him by saying that there's nothing between them and they were good friends. He further asks the same. She says that he's a nice chap, he studied sign languages just to talk to her. Hugh says that he's very impressed on him and goes out. Ally slept. Afterwards, her mom enters the room and wakes her up. She goes out into the hall. Everyone was there watching the news. In the news, the headline followed like this: US cities under attack. Everyone was so confused. Glenn also enters the space. They changed the channel and everything got much clearer. The channel showed footages of people panicking and running, and in the next video we can see a lady sitting inside a car. A child was also inside in the back seat. She then takes out a paper. It was written in the paper that don't make noise. They follows the instructions in channel and turns all their cell phones into silent mode. Meantime, Glenn tries to go outside in search of something to kill the creatures, but Hugh prevents him to do so. Ally says that if noise is the issue, it's not safe to hold much onto that city, cause the city is much dissonant. Sensing the trouble, they get ready to evacuate the city. But their grandma was not well to leave. But she somehow lets her will and gives some medicine to her daughter to hide. They then escapes in Glenn's and Hugh's car. At the same time, we can see the creatures attacking the city. Now the director shifts our focus into something else. Some citizens were sitting in a metro. They all were sitting quiet cause making noise would attract the creatures. But all of a sudden a baby started crying. The mom tries to make her quiet but fails. A passenger in the train grabs the baby from her and starts to throw it out from the train. The mom prevents him, and she also gets out of the train with the baby. But unfortunately, events occur afterwards as the baby starts crying, which attracts the creatures and results in killing them. Meantime, we can see Ally having a video call with Rob, and they promised each other to keep in touch until the events finishes off. Further, they enters a petrol station. Meanwhile, Ally moved out with her dog to somewhere. Jude, their younger son, was traveling with Glenn. All of a sudden someone entered the scene and shots fire at the sky and persuades them to give the car key. Glenn comes out of nowhere and shoots him in the knee. They escapes even though that person pleads them to take him too. Jude swaps the car due to fear. On the other hand, during the drive, Ally researches about the creature and understands that its actual name is Wesp and shares some details. Now both the cars get stuck in a traffic block. They then opted to go through a by road. Glenn directs Hugh to follow him. Unfortunately, a herd of deer hit his car and the car rattles away. Glenn got jabbed inside the car. He requests Hugh to escape without him, but Hugh tries to rescue Glenn using an iron rod. Having failed in the attempt, Glenn orders Hugh to take out gun from the trunk. Once he gets the gun, Glenn points it to Hugh and threatens him to move out, as he knew that he'll be dead gradually. But Hugh doesn't listen to all of these, and he moves to look for help and throws the iron rod away. But inside the car, Ally feels something fishy, and right away a Wesp attacks their car. On hearing all of these, their dog starts barking, which invites much more. They try to shut the dog up, but it keeps on doing so. On the other hand, Glenn shoots the Wesps, but Wesps barges into him to eat him up. Hugh ran out of options, and he throws the dog out of the car. The Wesps eat him too. Things settle down for the time being, but Wesps doesn't go out of the space. While Hugh gets out of the car to search for an aid, his mother starts to cough inside. We all know what happens when noise is made. Wesp rushes into the car. Simultaneously, Hugh observes that iron rod he threw away earlier. He again picks it up and throws it to another area. The Wesp gets near the rod, which helps Hugh in getting inside the car. He realizes that making sound will attract the Wesp and starts communicating through sign language. They were well experienced in sign language as Ally was deaf. Ally says the same. He restricts all the mediums that makes noise. He then takes a lighter and sets Glenn's car on fire. On hearing the sound of car burning, the Wesps rushes in, and, boom, the car blasts. All of them walks away to find a shelter. But their grandma was not well. Hugh then instructed them to have rest. He then comes near Ally, and then apologizes for making the dog a scapegoat. The grandma conveys her worry about her disease to Kelly, and her thought of being the next one to die. Meanwhile, Jude observes a home long away through a binocular, and makes Hugh watch the same. They then walk to the house. After covering so much distance, they reaches near the house in the night. They then attempts to open the gate, but Wesp comes in by hearing the clinging noise of vessels tied in the gate. A lady comes out of the house, pointing a gun and questions them. She made much noise. Wesps get into the scene and bites her off to hell. Hugh then sees a tunnel to get inside the house premises. Hugh then commands them that he'll go through the tunnel first, and if there's nobody inside the house, he'll provide a signal for them to come in. While moving through, a snake comes out of the tunnel, but he moves forward without noticing it. He sends signal for them to proceed. Jude was the first and Kelly was the last one to go through. While getting in, Jude sees the snake and makes noise. Wesps charge in and one of them kills the snake, and meantime the other one bites the leg of Kelly. Hugh at the same time turns on a woodchopper. The Wesps goes inside it, which results in killing them. The family enters the home and wraps Kelly's wound. Afterwards they settle to take rest, and Ally took the phone to call Rob. Rob picks the call up, but he was seen much creepier than before. He then makes Ally know that his parents were killed, and all of a sudden the call goes off. Now in the morning, Hugh comes in by saying that people have gone mad. Ally replied to him by saying that somebody crucified a person. They thought all of it happened, cause of blasphemy. Grandma enters the area and tells them to bring medicine for Kelly, as the wound was getting into an infection. He goes out of the house with Ally in search of medicine. Meantime, we can see large amount of Wesps flying above. They reaches a town, but the town was in desolation. Every single person was killed. They then notice a medical store and walk towards it. At the same time, we can see someone who looked like a church vicar, observing all of their actions. Kelly and Hugh enter the store through the back door silently. There we can see a lot of dead bodies. We all know what happened to them. Hugh finds out the required medicine for Kelly. We can also see the vicar looking through the glass opening of the door. Kelly's eye gets stuck into something. She sees the egg laid by the Wesps in the corpse. It was getting into shape so quickly. Actually, this is a logical cover-up to let us know that the Wesps multiply and reproduce so quickly, and thus shows how the enormous number of the creatures came up. Then some fluid splashes out from the egg. She makes some noise in fear. The Wesps surround them. But it didn't harm as they didn't make any further noise. Ally looks around for a way to escape and notes a fire hydrant. Hugh grasps her idea and gestures to take the mop up. He burns the mop and shows it to the fire hydrant. It explodes water with an alarm. The Wesps flies around it hearing the noise. Meanwhile they both escaped. After walking some distance, the vicar gets near them and asks them to join their flock called the Hushed. Ally feels something wrong and signs her dad that it's not right. The Reverend again tries to convince them, but they walk away. The vicar then opens his mouth, and we can see he had no tongue. He chopped it off to remain silent. Jude informs Kelly and Grandma about the arrival of Ally and Hugh. They all are communicating through sign language. Then we can see Kelly's wound getting better. Hugh then tries to switch on the TV, but the signal was off. Kelly comes beside him and says only CNN is available. She continues and says that the Wesps can't withhold cold, and she saw many of the Wesps dead in Antarctica. Then the scene shifts, where we can see Hugh sitting with Jude. Suddenly Ally lets Hugh know that the vicar and the people from the community, the Hushed, has come outside the house. Hugh comes out and asks what's the matter. The vicar writes join us in a book and shows him, but Hugh disagrees. The Reverend persuades him continuously. Hugh takes the book from him and writes to leave them alone. The vicar makes clear his intentions and again writes a very weird sentence. It followed like this: the girl is fertile. Hugh out of rage took out a gun from the house, but the priest knew that he will not shoot as the noise may attract Wesps. The group of people feels things are getting out of control and they drags the priest out of the space. Then in the night, Rob messages Kelly and lets her know that he's heading towards a relief camp, and when she tries to reply the connection goes off. Afterwards, Hugh gets the impression of something happening outside. Hugh and Kelly goes near the window with a gun. There they sees a girl standing alone, nervous. They take her inside the house and questions her. When Hugh opens her mouth he sees that she had no tongue. Ally meanwhile wakes up and sees a cell phone taped outside her window. At the same time Hugh and the others sees a number of phones wrapped around that girl's waist. The girl was sent by the vicar. Quickly all of the phones ring and Wesp barges into the house. Hugh and Kelly in dismay dissolves the phones in water. While trying to evacuate, they gets caught by the people of Vicar and Kelly gets stabbed. They ties Ally up in an attempt to take her with them. Simultaneously the grandmother runs after them to save her. She gives herself up. While trying to save her, she dies. That whole sequence is just peak cinematic experience. This is not the end of everything. The group then threatens her using a knife and takes her forcefully. The vicar was also there. He tells them to shut the fuck up. But the family wasn't ready to give up. They attacked the group using knife and other weapons. The community couldn't withhold the unprecedented strike, and thus the family saved Ally. A mom and that girl who got into the house was there witnessing all the events. Months pass by, winter season. We can now see the family walking towards a relief camp. Ally somehow connects internet and contacts Rob. She comes to know that Rob was in the same camp. The Wesps couldn't survive the current climate, but they may resist it in the near future. Our target is to kill them off before the end of winter season. Ally sends a voice note to Rob. And now the movie wraps up when Ally and Rob together kills a Wesp. Hope everyone has enjoyed this video. Please post your valuable opinion as comments. See you soon with next video. Until then, bye.